welcome to Nerd Sports. My name is David Dickerman, and this is Johnny Skelton. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about sports. And the first sports we're going to do is water polo. So, no water polo?
No.
What are we talking about?
Everything else?
Oh, okay, let's go ahead and click that to that and see what, we'll just go ahead.
All right, well, first and foremost, this is our first episode. This is a new channel, whatever. People aren't going to like the takes that we're going to have, and they're not going to like the opinions. They may not even agree with all of the things that we cover, and that's fine. I want to kind of try to come across as being as genuine as possible, and like those people that spend money and time to go get spray tans only to get left by the person that you're trying to impress. So, we're just going to try to keep it as real as we possibly can, and we're going to try to stay with the things that are relevant. Things like basketball and football and baseball and even, NASCAR. So, because those are the mainstream sports. Yes, if something very relevant happens, like the Masters this past week, where the first Japanese player won a major event for his country, we'll touch on that a little bit, and but for the most part, we're just here, to just go over.
Yeah, and add in a little bit of comedy into it, like the Japanese kid probably just wrote a lot of crit 20s, honestly.
No. God, that's so bad. All right, so, there's a lot of ground to cover here, so you kind of wonder where we're going to start. Seems to be a lot of, pressure, trying to, fit as much as we possibly can into our first episode. So we're just going to try to do our best to, full send it or completely yeet this thing to the lower atmosphere and see what sticks to the wall. So we're going to start. The NBA, the association, basketball. First and foremost, we're going to be completely transparent. Not my favorite sport, but it's still watchable. My girlfriend loves basketball. I tried to get some of her, take on it, but she's doing her day-to-day thing. She's handling stuff down on her home front, and she couldn't answer the phone. So, for what it seems like, the NBA, this regular season's trying to wind down. I think there's like maybe 15 or 20 games left in the regular season. Playoff picture seems to be a little bit in flux. I'm not even really sure how the playoff system works in the NBA. I think they take like the first, the top 6 or 8 teams, and they seed them accordingly. And then they have basically what amounts to as a tournament with a best of 3 or a best of 5, and then obviously with the best of 7 series is ending in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, it's teams with the 7th and 8th highest winning percentage in each conference will each have 2 opportunities to win 1 game to earn a playoff spot.
Yeah, the all-important play-in game. But I know it's going to, at least as far as the NBA take is going to be concerned, it's going to sound generic and it's going to sound like a soft take, but, given the disclaimer that I put out there as the preface, it'll get better. But,
yeah, because I have no idea about sports, really.
Yeah, the only game that I really watched so far this year was the NCAA men's final between Baylor and Gonzaga. Everybody had Gonzaga to pick. Or picked a win. They were the favorites. Because we didn't have our traditional powerhouses. You didn't have Kentucky. You didn't have North Carolina. You didn't even have Duke in the tournament this year. Which don't quote me. I think it was like 1980 something since that happened. But
no, it was 1964. I remember that because we talked about that last time.
That's right, we did. But everybody had Gonzaga to pick at 1.
That's my blank out moment there. I was like, wait a minute, I know this.
Right?
I know this.
Oh my God.
I know something.
Little pubic curly hair pearl.
My balls finally dropped.
Yeah, a little bit, just a tad. But we're not arguing that I mean, it takes a degree of talent and an incredible amount of unnatural ability to be able to play this game at the level that these young men and women are both playing these games at. You can make your jokes about the WNBA all you want. You know, I mean, there was even those jokes going around that their COVID-19 protocol fan attendance rivaled that of their normal regular season attendance, and so I mean, not to take anything away from the women for that play on the professional level. I think a lot of that is the packaging of the product by the head office of the NBA. So,
but I still like that one meme that says, "Why does the women NBA get to have their full audience and the NBA doesn't?" And it's just empty stands and everything.
yes, I saw that one, and then I've seen the same one with other like baseball teams, like the Rays. Oddly enough, the defending American League champions, but I mean, you're going to have some of these teams that like the smaller market stuff that have the low attendance numbers anyway. But we'll get to baseball here in a little bit. Everybody had Gonzaga. See, there we go.
Don't die on me.
I'm gonna try to clear my throat here and take a nice big swig of our Black Rifle coffee.
Yep. That's not sponsored.
Yeah, we're not being sponsored by Black Rifle, but if anybody from Black Rifle hears this or sees this, hey, give us a call. We'd love it. I mean, we'd be great. Anyway, Gonzaga had a problem. I mean, they going into the final, they had two games that were decided by 1 point, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, they were riding a really high, emotional roller coaster there, and I think to a degree, from what I saw on of the game, they really kind of went into it with a lax kind of an attitude because they were picked to win that game. On paper, they should have won that game, but Baylor. The Baylor's men's team just kind of came in there like a buzzsaw, and I mean they really they had nothing to lose seemingly, and then obviously everything to gain. I mean they're coming in as the underdogs, and I for the most part when I watch sports, I like rooting for the underdogs. I mean obviously I've got my favorites that I like to watch, but. It's just like with my Red Sox. I don't care if they win any other game during the course of the year, as long as they beat the damn Yankees. I don't give a shit. I mean, honestly, don't.
I think everybody has that approach from what I've. And this is all what I heard because I really don't know anything about sports. But most of the time, it's usually they go through the whole scene. It's just like, oh, they lost they didn't win the pennant this year, or didn't get in the pregame of the pennant. But at least they beat the Yankees a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like that, every professional sports level has those teams. In baseball, it's the Yankees, and now on the National League side of baseball, it's become the LA Dodgers. Ownership groups go out and spend a ton of money trying to, build a team that's going to win a championship. The Mets, the New York Mets this year, their owner he went on record as saying, I'm all in. And, a lot of New York Mets fans have been, with the exception of, I think it was like 68 and 86, they've been, they've resided themselves to being the, we're just going to root for these lovable losers kind of a fan base. And they went out and signed Francisco Lindor to like a $320 million contract. I've got a lot of, I've got an opinion on those 320 plus, those large contracts. I've got an opinion on what they're going to do to the game, but we'll get into that at another time. But from my perspective, the game wasn't as close as maybe the scoreboard, reflected. Now, Baylor, from what I remember, they did win by like 10 plus points. I think it was like a 14-point win or something like that. But, I mean, right there towards the end of the game with about 2 or 3 minutes left, you really kind of saw the wind and the desire to try, just leave the Gonzaga bench. And you want to see a game go down to the to the final buzzer. You really do. And whether it's the last pitch, the final down, whatever it is, I mean, you want to see a game go to its fullest completion.
Yeah, most of the games like that those are the ones that you really pay attention to.
Right. I mean, those are the games
Because it's more
a lot of people
a lot
remember.
of people like the underdog story.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Michael Jordan in the finals against the Cleveland Cavaliers one year, or was it the conference finals? I can't remember. They no, that was it was the conference finals, I believe. Anyways, I'm going to catch hell for that later, but whatever. He was playing a game with the flu,
Yeah.
and he ended up making that last at the buzzer shot to win the game. And I'm like, those are the moments. They become very iconic.
Yeah, and then you have someone like LeBron James, and he pulls a hemi or gets a sprain, and he's just out.
Yeah, I mean, not to take anything away from LeBron James. I mean, the guy on paper is very successful. I mean, coming out of high school, no time in college ball at all, gets drafted right out of high school. Goes out, I mean, he's got multiple championships with multiple teams. That's fine. That's great. It's whatever. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, are you going to ever be able to, are you ever going to be comparable to, say, like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant?
Yeah.
No, in my opinion, no. Because with the conversation of the GOAT, being the greatest of all time, you have to, the numbers are only going to speak so much. There has to be a mental and a physical toughness there as well. You're going to hear those arguments about how, well, it was a different era. You can't compare the two different eras with different players, and they're the greatest of this particular generation. I can see the logic behind that, but if you're still going to have that subsection of fans, analysts, experts. They're going to be like, well, he's better than he is. The only way that we'd ever be able to find that out is, having them face off against each other.
Yeah,
in their primes, but we're never going to ever have that.
The only time frame they actually do something like that, because they do those simulators, they get all the points and everything like that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of variables that human variables that they don't really get.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I think that LeBron James at this point's got going more than Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant is the fact that he's able to retain hair on his head, albeit his hairline does recede faster than the tide in the middle of the day. But, past that, I mean, Kobe Bryant, I mean, he even retired from basketball at one point, and so did Michael Jordan, and they both came back.
Yeah.
I mean, and they both exhibited a mental and physical toughness to be able to play the game. I mean, Kobe Bryant finally had to hang up the shoes because his knees just couldn't take it anymore. And Michael Jordan, I mean, age was just catching up with him.
Yeah, because I remember that because he retired and he went to
he retired.
The White Sox.
Yeah, retired. He went to go play baseball for a while. I mean, he never made it to the major leagues. I mean, he stayed.
Well, you trained with him.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you can be a non-roster invitee, or you can be a spring on a minor league roster, and you're still going to get invited to spring training because in spring training, everybody's going to get that shot to make that 40-man roster. That's just like Tim Tebow. I mean, say what you want about the guy. I like Tim Tebow. He never backs down from his convictions. He never changes his public image. He doesn't bend to what the media wants him to be. He stayed true to who he was.
Yeah.
And yeah, were there times that he played over his head? Absolutely. But I think a lot of that too is a product of the systems that he played in. The system in Denver could have worked for him a little bit better if he had a better offensive line. And he had the tools and he available to him as far as like talent and drive to make that career. But I don't think he necessarily had the mentors that a lot of these other great quarterbacks that you saw had. Like Steve Young, for example, he had Joe Montana. And so and if anybody who's ever watched football remembers the San Francisco 49ers of the 80s and 90s, You had that Joe Montana, and then when Joe Montana retired, Steve Young stepped into the breach, and he became their quarterback, and he actually led them, I think, to 2 or 3 Super Bowls. But with all that aside, it was nice for me to be able to see a team from Texas win. I'm not a homer by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, we're here in Texas. I'm a Red Sox fan. So, if we were going to follow that logic, I mean, I'd be all in on the Rangers, which, no, I mean, no. I mean, I, I like the game, but, at the same time, I'm the same, I like to watch exciting baseball, and just the way that the Rangers run their organization just doesn't at least as of late, it doesn't lend itself to an exciting product to put on the field. I mean, it's almost like now, I don't, and I'll have to double check it, but I don't think that they've won in their new ballpark yet. I mean, there's been a lot of firsts that have occurred in the new Rangers ballpark. I mean, they've had the first home run that was hit there was not by a Ranger. The first win there was not by the Rangers. And just recently, Joe Musgrove of the San Diego Padres threw the first no-hitter in that park, and it happened to be the first no-hitter thrown for the San Diego Padres franchise. But we're all getting off track here. So I mean, but I mean with the I'm going to try to wrap up this whole basketball part of it. So I mean, winning a championship is kind of like peeing in a pool for me. You're the only one that feels it, and it doesn't last very long. Because next year, whenever the season starts up, the preseason starts up, whatever it is, Baylor's got a big target part, painted on their back now. Just like Tampa Bay, they've got the Rays on the baseball side, they're the defending American League champions. Everybody in the American League is gunning for them because they want a shot at the World Series. The Dodgers, world champions, they are going to have the biggest target painted on their backs, and they're going to have to go out and they're going to have to be the first team, and I think since the Toronto Blue Jays, to go out and try to repeat a World Series title. You don't see it happen very often. So, but that being said, football's next. I like watching football. I mean, there's like 2 or 3 games a year that I watch. The Army-Navy game obviously being one of those.
Yeah, the one this year was that was a really good underdog thing.
Yeah, I mean, with Navy going in to West Point, I think the last time that the game was played there was in 1940. It was in the 40s, I believe it was, and Navy beat the crap out of Army on their home field. So, Navy, everybody was, pointing to these, historical, statistics, and on paper, they were saying that Navy should have walked away with this game. But I think Army took it personally. One, it's their home turf. You got a different breed of kid in there playing football now. And I believe last year during the regular season, Army had far and away a better record than Navy did. And I mean, I think last year was I think it was an off year for the Navy. Both teams run that triple option offense, which is really hard to defend against unless it's something that you see every day. But I mean, with the Army-Navy games,
yeah, it was 1943.
Yeah, I mean, with the Army-Navy games, you're going to hear 2 different arguments. You're going to hear that it's the tradition and that it's one of the favorite games to watch all year long because I mean, this is one of the most storied rivalries in all of sports.
Yeah,
and then
it's also on a lot of people's bucket lists, especially for military people.
It
to
is,
at least
yeah.
Go see it once.
Like my dad, he's a 20-year Navy guy. He retired from the Navy. I joined the Army, and it's on our bucket list to go see an Army-Navy game in person. And my dad has stated under no uncertain terms that when we do go to a live Army-Navy game, we're sitting on opposite sides of the stadium. We don't watch the game together. We don't talk about the game. We just acknowledge that the game happened, and we move on about our day.
Yeah.
Like this year when Navy lost 15-0 to the cadets of West Point. That afternoon, we're sitting in the living room looking at my dad. I'm like, I mean, it was a good game. He goes, "Yep," and that was the extent of our conversation. That was it.
It wasn't that brutal, was it?
It was 15-0. It was 15-0. Navy did not score. Go ahead, fact check me. I dare you.
I'm facts. That's basketball.
You're looking for the 2020 Army-Navy game.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Damn. Yeah, they did lose that bad. Freaking.
But the scoreboard was not nearly as close. I mean, the game was closer than the scoreboard indicated. There was a lot of back and forths. I mean, Navy, they really can. They controlled the passing game. Army controlled the ground game. Special teams, I think, is where it made it. Where the difference was made. But the big news out of football for the past week, longtime wide receiver for the New England Patriots, Julian Edelman, announced his retirement yesterday. He said that he was going to go until the wheels fell off, and in his retirement video, he said, "Well, the wheels fell off."
What happened to him?
He sustained an injury last year. Don't get me to find him. I mean, you could probably check it. I think it was either a shoulder or a knee or something like that.
Who is it?
Julian Edelman, Edelman. But I mean, the guy's career. I mean, it was the complete underdog coming in. He was a 7th-round pick for the New England Patriots. He had a 12-year career with them that included 3 Super Bowl wins, and he even had a Super Bowl MVP award. 620 career receptions, 6,822 receiving yards, and 36 touchdown receptions. Do I think that it's completely over for him? No. I think that he's going to probably try to reevaluate things. The closer that next season's training camps start to open up. And do I think if he decides to come back, is he going to play for New England? If New England gives him the right amount of money. Do I see a reunion between Brady, Gronkowski, and Edelman down in Tampa Bay? I think that's pretty likely. That's if it were to happen at all. But if he doesn't decide to suit up and get on the field, I mean, I definitely see him putting on a suit and tie and grabbing a microphone and announcing games. That seems to be the path that a lot of these players take.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's okay. Because his he canceled his contract for failed physical, and now he's eligible for a injury protection benefits worth about $2 million. God.
Yeah. So, but football. Football is one of those sports that rivals baseball as holding the title of America's pastime.
Well, a lot of people are actually saying that baseball is on the ropes of not being a sport anymore because the attendance even before the COVID stuff. But everybody goes up and says, "Oh, this is going down. This is going down. They're going to go bankrupt pretty soon and everything like that," and it doesn't happen.
Well, I think a lot of the current affairs of the nation play a part in the perception people have of different sports. So, for example, everybody gives LeBron James a bunch of shit for voicing his political opinion. We're not saying that you can't voice your opinion. We have the First Amendment for that particular reason.
Yeah.
I mean, you are protected by free speech. What I and a lot of people have a problem with is when people who are in a position of fame, professional athletes, actors, actresses, they use that platform as a means of shoving their ideology down the throats of their fan base. And it causes us to kind of take a step back, for me at least, and I look at it like, look, I don't pay you to give me your political opinions from the standpoint of you're right and I'm wrong. You can voice your opinion. That's fine. Do it. I encourage it. That's why I served. That's why men and women that I served with did the same thing.
Yeah.
But as it relates to using your platform or using your status as a platform to change hearts and minds based solely on your fame? No.
Well, that's the general opinion on a lot of stuff. Is once you have a platform, say God forbid we actually become popular enough to where we have like millions of viewers, millions of people listening to us, and everything like that. Is it our right to voice our opinion about how everything's going? Now, if it's something like drastic, like suicide or stuff like that, something that's actually more charitable, homelessness, small businesses losing their money because of all this. Yes, I will voice my opinion. But going into the political standing, it's like, oh, you need to vote this way. You need to vote that way. You need to do this way. No, I am never going to do that. I will
Yeah.
suggest, but that's about it.
Yeah, and see, if we do, when you do voice your opinion, make it an educated one.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're going to have these sports stars, these actresses, these people of popular, that are popular, and they're mainstream, and they have millions of followers on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, whatever. You see a lot of times, and this happens for people that believe on both sides of the aisle, they regurgitate the talking points of their preferred party. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, do your homework a little bit. If you're going to try to make me think the same way that you think, do your homework. Bring forth an argument that is going to be convincing. Don't just sit there and go, for example, Major League Baseball. I'm just going to move into baseball real quick. Baseball announced a week before last that they were taking the All-Star game and the MLB draft out of Atlanta because of the voting laws that the Georgia government, the state government, were putting into place requiring voter IDs, claiming somehow that was racist. Let's break that apart for just a second. And yeah, this is going to go from a little bit of sporty to just a tiny bit political, but I think that
I'll give you 5 minutes because I've already did this topic with someone else.
Yeah.
And they went on the offensive with it, going, it's like, well, black people in that area, they work. It's all facts and annotated and everything like that. I was like, dude, I don't listen to the percentages and everything because usually they're wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
And you can annotate, and I looked at the actual law and everything. There's actual spots to where you're basically, if you're absentee, you can still do it. You got 180 days to do the absentee and everything. You don't have, you can do the mail-in ballot. You can do mail, you can do fax, you can do.
right, because what's the old
email.
joke? 68% of all statistics are made up.
Yeah.
But I mean, to say that, where baseball's stance was that we're looking at these laws like they're Jim Crow on steroids. I'm like, who the fuck are you to come in here and talk about Jim Crow? You have no idea what the hell Jim Crow even is. I mean, we're not. It is in no way, shape, form, or fashion, at least in my opinion. And my opinions, they don't reflect the opinions of this show.
Actually, you know what? Do you find an argument on this? We'll do a what the hell on that.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Right after we do the other 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I really want to get into that.
Yeah, because it's like, all right, they want to say that getting a voter ID is racist because they're saying that black people or people of color can't get it. And it's like, well, isn't that racist by assuming that they can't get that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we have to have driver's licenses to operate vehicles. We have to have ID to fly on a plane. We have to have an ID to go to the library and check out books. You have to have an ID just to use credit cards in this country. So how is it not racist to require them to have these other pieces of identification when all we're requiring is just maybe an endorsement on their existing driver's license to say this is my voter ID? So you go in and we can try to stop some of these election frauds that have been going on. I mean, we can get into a whole other argument about that.
Which we'll get into that.
But with baseball taking a huge, huge moneymaker for the economy of Atlanta and its outlying suburbs by taking the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, the Midsummer Classic. I mean, it's the
It's
Home
$100
Run
million.
Derby. Yeah.
It's $100 million they're taking from that community
Yeah.
to another one.
Yeah, and so what do? Okay, well, all right, well, we're going to take this away from you, Atlanta, because your state sucks, because we think that it's racist, when in fact, the head office, they're just looking at political expediency, and they're using that buzzword optics. You remember that from a few years ago? And so, and without even doing any kind of homework, they're taking the mainstream safe route, and they're removing it, because you're going to get all these people that are going to look at it like, well, good on baseball for taking it away. Well, yeah, you're going to think that until your economy suffers because of it, because when Denver, who got the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, starts raking in that cash. You said $100 million just for that 3-day event. You got the Futures game, you've got the Old Timers game, you got all these charity events that go on around it, you got the Home Run Derby, and then you've got the game itself.
And then you got small businesses that lose their
Right.
money. You got
Right.
you got a whole community that's losing all that cash flow. Even a guy that's like selling like
Knockoff T-shirts.
Yeah.
So you look at it and it's like, okay. I mean, bottom line, because I know that I've only got 5 minutes, so I'm trying to wrap this up. But bottom line, you look at, like, on the calendar, the right around the All-Star break for baseball, there are no other major professional sports scheduled until the day after the All-Star game.
Yeah.
So for that particular 2 or 3 day time period, every set of eyes in the that watches professional sports are focused on baseball. And so you're talking about revenue from TV ratings, the radio stations like ESPN that broadcast that over the radio.
Advertisement
dollars.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about just ticket sales and souvenir sales and concessions on site. We're talking about all the residuals that come from that. You're taking that away from Atlanta, and instead of looking at it from the big picture, the people that are involved with that decision-making process are looking at it as, well, this is going to be popular with the vocal minority, and let's just be honest with ourselves, that is exactly what they are, the vocal minority. Because it's the vocal minority that is always speaking the loudest, and then you get the silent majority that just they for whatever reason, don't feel like speaking up. And I think that is a dynamic that needs to change, not only on the political front, but I think on the social front as well. Because a lot of people in this in this world, let alone this country, they have forgotten what it means to get punched in the mouth. So, you're going to have a hot take on something, and you're doing it from the anonymity of a screen and a keyboard, knowing that you can hide behind an IP address, you can hide behind a VPN, and nobody's going to be able to understand, nobody's going to be able to know who you are. Now, you're going to have those crafty individuals that are going to dox you, and they're going to put your information out there. But for the most part, people don't get up in front of behind a podium, in front of a microphone, and they don't give their hot takes out there. Because a lot of times, they know that they're going to come across as sounding uneducated and over-opinionated. And they're using their stature as a platform to force feed you their point of view. But moving on. So.
All right. I was about to open up another political thing too.
Mm-mm.
But anyways, we're going with still baseball. What was was there any other major stuff that happened in baseball?
Yeah, we had the no-hitter from the San Diego Padres last week. I watched I was listening to that game on the At-Bat app. And what I do, through that, I like to listen to that team's broadcast, because you start to feel that energy build up a little bit from the local guys, because they're the ones that are calling that team's games year in and year out. I mean, they see pitch after pitch, inning after inning, and you start to hear that excitement start to well up inside their voice. And it's just kind of cool because it kind of gives you an insight. It's like a little microcosm of what that fan base is feeling. And because I was born in San Diego, fun fact, I don't claim it, but I was born there. It's no fault of my own. My dad was in the Navy, but so my mom and dad, they used to go to Padres games all the time. Because literally the stadium was downtown from the shipyards. So, I just thought that, hey, that was kind of cool. I grew up idolizing people like Tony Gwynn. You stick a bat in that guy's hand, and 99.9% of the time, you're going to get something positive coming out of that at bat. And it was just nice to be able to see something like that finally happen. Quite literally, the San Diego Padres were the last Major League Baseball team to not have a no-hitter. And so Joe Musgrove, who grew up in El Cajon, outside of San Diego, grew up a lifelong San Diego Padres fan. And he finally, he got drafted, played in the majors for a couple of other teams. And then finally he got traded to San Diego. He got to wear his team's uniform, and he goes out and he puts in that performance. Granted, he had that defense behind him, backing him up. And from what I understand, it was he was basically one pitch away from throwing a perfect game because he hit Joey Gallo with a pitch. It had, depending on how that at-bat would have turned out, we could be very well talking about maybe like the 28th or 29th perfect game in Major League history as opposed to just another no-hitter. But when I say just another no-hitter, it's not to take away from the historical significance of the game, because like I said, this was the first one in franchise history. And the Padres have been around since like the 60s or 70s, something like that. It was like the late 60s or early 60s. But
is it Pittsburgh? Probably?
No, the San Diego Padres. But just the fact that they got their first once. Now everybody in the major leagues has a no-hitter accredited to their franchise. I think the only thing that's out there now is World Series appearances.
1969.
Yeah, see, and so now we're talking about who still doesn't have a World Series appearance. And if I'm not mistaken, and I'm pretty confident when I say this, the Seattle Mariners stand alone atop that mountain as being the only team who is socially distanced from being in the World Series. They got close a couple of times, but at the end, close only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and atomic bombs. But my Red Sox, they started the season 0-3, and everybody was just on here we go, this is going to be a lost season kind of a deal. And for whatever reason, the bats came alive. The team started to try to, the team was figuring it out.
Actually, there's been a lot of teams. Well, it's only it's San Diego Padres, Colorado Rockies.
No, who have not been in the World Series. I'm not talking about winning one. I'm talking about appearing in a World Series. The Rockies,
no. Seattle Mariners are the only NB. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, see, the Padres played against the Yankees in the World Series back in the 90s. And the Rockies, their only World Series appearance was in 2007 when they were swept by the Boston Red Sox. Anyways.
And yet again, I'll try not to.
Hey, I'm the guy with the hot take. You're the dude with the keyboard. You're fact checking me along the way, and that's fine. Yeah. So you're keeping me honest, and I appreciate that.
And I'm in the pretty one.
Yeah, that's debatable too.
Okay.
But I'm the one with the hot girlfriend, so just kind of putting that out there.
I can dress up my hand.
Yeah, but after a while, doesn't your hand fall asleep because you're just that boring?
Yeah, only the left one, so I can make you feel weird. But
I applaud that effort. That was a good dodge. That was a good burn, and you dodged it. I just appreciate that.
You got to change it up sometimes.
But anyway, so The offense started figuring it out. The pitching staff finally decided to come up and play. And now we're sitting atop the American League East division with a game and a half lead as of this morning over the Yankees. We've yet to play the Yankees. The Yankees are still trying to figure it out, I guess, a little bit. They've got the biggest payroll in the American League, hands down. I mean, they traditionally do year in and year out. And I think a lot of that is just because the knucklehead fan base of the New York Yankees enables that ownership group to pay out these high salaries to all these players. And, they all get close and they just end up not coming. I mean, they come home empty-handed. And it's kind of, for me as a Red Sox fan, it's kind of refreshing to see. Because while I may not refer to the Yankees as the evil empire anymore, because let's just face it, I mean, you look at England, I mean, they ruled the world at one point. Now they're just this tiny little island and they're the furthest thing from being an empire. But, you just, for whatever reason, people just seem to be enamored with that interlocking NY and those dumb-looking fucking pinstripes. It's like, I mean, I want to visit New York City because there's a ton of things to do there. I mean, from what I understand, it's a great city.
You just want to go there to piss on the stadium, don't you?
That's exactly right, and that's exactly what I told my girlfriend. I told her, it's like, I want, like, she wants to go to visit Australia and New Zealand, and I told her, I said, the one thing that I want to do in New Zealand is I want to climb to the top of Mount Doom, and I want you to take a picture of me pissing off the top of Mount Doom, because that's a thing that people do.
Well, I also want to go see the Hobbit Village.
Well, yeah, Hobbit, sure, Hobbit Town, or Hobbiton, that's what it's called.
Yeah, Hobbiton.
But yeah, I mean, you go see the Shire, and that's fine, great, awesome. I mean, I want to walk around in Frodo's house, and that's cool. But I want to go to Mount Doom because they've got a tour guide that they take you up a trail to the top of the mountain, and apparently that's something that people do now is they have to get that picture that somebody takes from behind them, ass cheeks to the wind, and then you see a stream of piss coming out from in front of them, and they're pissing off the top of Mount Doom into Mordor, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. But I mean, for me, I just, it's not to disrespect the Yankees, but I really just don't. I just want to piss all over their stadium. I really do.
That's a lot of water and a lot of time.
You know what?
If you're gonna go like all over and everything, I mean, you start at one spot, man. Okay, idea. What you do is you have like a set of Camelbacks.
Force hydration.
Yeah, force hydration. You're like drinking and everything, and you're moving. I mean, you got to make sure like the wind direction and everything like that, to where you don't piss on yourself. You don't want that kind of smell. Yeah. And then you just keep on going, and you just go around. Now, are you talking both internal and out? Inside and outside?
No, I just want to piss on the side of the building.
Okay.
When I go into the ballpark, I'm going to respect the cathedral that is a baseball stadium and be able to take in a game, because that's on my bucket list of things to do, is to go to a game at every Major League stadium. But
or this may sound sick. You save up all your urine and you do like
no.
I'm
just going to stop you right there. Just no.
I mean, you get like a pressure thing and you just spray it.
No, because then you start trespassing into territories of criminal mischief, and I'm not trying to catch a charge in New York State, because they'll keep you locked up for weeks.
Stupid reasons.
Yeah, stupid reasons. Because let's face it, De Blasio. I think De Blasio is still the mayor of New York City. I mean, he doesn't need a reason to throw people like me in jail. So it's let's just leave it at that. But no, I mean, pure, plain and simple. All jokes aside, if I were to do something like that, it would just be on the outside of the stadium, very superficial, just kind of like a big middle finger to you, not you specifically, but the Yankees as a whole. But but going inside the ballpark, going inside the stadium to watch a game. I mean, inside. To me, baseball is not just so much of a sport as it is a religion. It's more of a lifestyle, and to me, it's something that's very respected. And I may hate the team, I may hate the laundry that particular player puts onto his body for 162 games a year. minus any playoff runs. But when I go through the turnstiles of a ballpark, I'm there for 3 hours, 4 hours, however long it takes for that particular game to get played. And I'm at church.
Yeah, and you also have to think about the history of the place. I mean, they got a museum in there.
Well, the Yankee Stadium that's there now, it's a newer one. I mean, whereas the one before was the house that Babe Ruth built, the new Yankee Stadium is the house that Jeter built.
Yeah.
And
Do they still have the old stadium
no, I
around,
think
or
the
no?
I
They got
think
rid
they
of it.
demolished the old one. Don't quote me on it. I don't think that it's there still. Um, but it. I mean, there's a lot of exciting things going on in baseball now, and like for example, JD Martinez, he plays for the Red Sox. He's on this incredible tear. Knock on wood. He's on I think he's got like 6 or 7 games in a row where he's got an extra base hit. I mean, the dude is just red hot right now as far as swinging the bat is concerned, and he just seems very locked in. He's able to get his resources back, to him. He watches video. He's not stealing signs. So let's not go there. And he's watching videos of his at bats, so that way he can make those in-game adjustments that he needs to make in order to address the ball and square up a little bit easier to make if anything else, a more productive out, whether it's moving a runner up 90 feet or getting a runner, over the plate to score a run. He's starting to really, and I
Oh,
really
they
I
just
really hope.
okay. They just updated the old stadium. That's it.
Yeah, I think they're using it for like college and high school events and stuff like that, like for those games.
No, it's the same stadium.
No, it's not the same stadium. I promise you, it's not the same
It's not.
stadium. It's not. Because ESPN did a 30 for 30 on it, and I mean, when they moved from the old stadium to the new stadium, I mean, they were moving things from one building to the other. It is not the same stadium. Absolutely not the same stadium.
Oh,
Because I believe the new Yankee Stadium opened up in like 2009 or 2008 or something like that, but it's not the same stadium. They may have made improvements to the new Yankee Stadium, but it is not the house that Ruth built. The stadium where you had Murderers Row, Lou Gehrig, uh, Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth. I mean, those guys, a lot of the Yankee greats, the stadium that they played in does not exist anymore. Because the Steinbrenners built a new stadium right next door.
I guess they still have it then because they renovated it. It began in 2009.
Yeah, I mean, they may have renovated it and they're using it for other things, but it is not Yankee Stadium because the stadium that the New York Yankees plays in, literally, I think is right next door. Anyways,
Weird. Okay.
so, but regardless as to the authenticity of the stadium itself as it relates to its roots, I think like home plate is the same. I think they moved the home plate from the old stadium to the new stadium kind of a thing. But, stuff like that to me is cool. But
Oh, okay. No. It was okay. The original Yankee Stadium was demolished in 2010. 10
yeah,
years after
okay,
it
see.
closed. Okay.
Now I know that the Rangers, when they built their new Globe Life Field, they took the ballpark in Arlington. Instead of destroying it, I mean, aesthetically and architecturally, it is a beautiful stadium. I mean, I loved going to games there because, I mean, it was open air. Yes, middle of the summer, and it sucks going to see a game because you're sweating your nuts off in the stands. But that was part of the experience of going to see a game in Texas. And I mean, there was nothing wrong with the park. I mean, I think it was just a little bit over 20 years old. Because I remember that the first year that it was open, we had the All-Star game here. I think that was, I think it was 93 or 94. I can't remember which. But, and I remember being disappointed about when the All-Star game came to Texas because being a King Griffey Jr. fan. I was never a Mariners fan, but I was always a Griffey Jr. fan. But Griffey Jr. He was hurt and he opted out of the All Star game, and so I was like, yeah, I'm not even going to go down there. Yeah, you're going to bump into all these major league players kind of wandering around and stuff like that. You get autographs galore. I just didn't care because I'm like the one guy that I wanted to go see wasn't going to be there. But anyway, but to me, baseball, the head office can't seem to get out of its own way.
1995.
Yeah, so I mean, they can't seem to get out of their own way, and it really kind of pisses me off because when you got these guys, they're out there on the field and they're busting their ass to try to win games, and they're out there trying to help their team win, and it's producing this wonderful product that we're able to go and see, and then a lot of times spend way too much money on tickets to be able to see, but still we're able to take this game in. I've said it in the past that baseball is perfect, and what makes it watchable is the fact that imperfect men play it. But I think that the front office, specifically the commissioner of baseball, he's not. I mean, and I hate using the term woke because to me that just sounds ignorant. But he's too in tune with the woke crowd and all these social justice warriors and all these keyboard, mafiosos. And it's like, look, do what is best for the game, because your job as commissioner is to do exactly that. Do what is best for the game. Whether it is a popular decision with the masses or not. Atlanta, from what I understand, the way that the city selection for the All-Star game works is that the cities that are potential candidates for hosting this event, they really have to come to Major League Baseball with a proposal that shows we have the infrastructure to support this, and this is the money that's going to be made, the revenues that are going to be made from this. We've got these security measures in place. We've got these protocols in place, this, that. I mean, they have to have a comprehensive plan laid out when they present it to Major League Baseball.
Well, it's basically like the same thing with
the Super Bowl.
Well, the Super Bowl and
like the Olympics and
yeah.
the World Cup. So, I mean, these cities and these communities, they have to come out of pocket to have the planning committees come together to spend the time and resources to put these proposals together. And they're basically they're hedging their bets. I mean, they're betting, they're spending the money to try to make the money. So, I think by comparison, I think they maybe spend like maybe half to maybe $750,000 trying to put together this proposal showing A, B, and C, A through Z, why we should get that game and why we should be able to host that event or events. Because like in this case, the Major League Draft also got moved.
Yeah.
But these communities are coming out of pocket to spend the money to show you, the commissioner of baseball and the planning and the competition committee, why we should get this game. You get awarded the game, and so you spend the money you inject the money into your infrastructure to make sure that traffic's not going to be too much of an issue around the time of the event. You're going to make sure that your ballpark is up to par, and that all of your ducks are in a row, your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed. Like small businesses, large businesses, you got your corporate sponsors, you got your TV slots, and you got everything laid out, and you are ready to go. Your team is wearing the fucking All-Star Game patch on their jerseys. Everybody has got tickets, flights. I mean, everything's booked, and everybody's ready to go. You got fans that are going to be coming in from all across the world to watch this game. And because somebody had a misinformed, regurgitated talking point, and they're going to throw it out there, all of a sudden it enrages this demographic, and instead of looking at it and saying, we're going to review the potential impact upon this game, and then we're going to make our decision based on that. Don't look at it as, well, we're going to side with this party versus that party. I mean, no. I mean, your focus is not to run for fucking office. Your goal is to be a steward of the game. And I mean, in my personal opinion, I think baseball just fell flat on their face with this one. Whether you agree with me or not, conservative versus liberal, I don't really care. I'm not looking at it from a political standpoint. You made an ill-advised, undereducated decision based on an opinion that, in my mind, you didn't spend 5 minutes looking at. Because you heard the rumblings, and then like later that afternoon, Major League Baseball announced that we're moving the All-Star game and the draft from Atlanta based on this. And it's like...
Well, it's like that whole Gillette commercial thing about demasculating men and everything like that. They get this idea. It's like, oh, it needs to be this, 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 and this. Well, now we're losing a lot of money because Gillette. Nobody's buying Gillette. I was like, okay, technically that's not what fully happened, but that's kind of what happened because they started getting like the Dollar Shave Club. That's really popular right now. A lot of people are going away from like Gillette.
Yeah.
Not because of that commercial, but because Gillette's freaking expensive. It's like 2 times the amount compared to like Harry's razors, Dollar Shave Club.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, back when I shaved, I mean, I looked at stuff like that. But, it's ridiculous. I mean, and I think a lot of it, too, is... You remember that saying, don't bite the hand that feeds you?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of these major corporations, and I think a lot of these people that occupy these head offices of organizations like Major League Baseball, they have forgotten that. And so, I mean, they're biting the hands of the fans. And like last year, I mean, the general consensus is that, with the exception of the Dodgers, obviously, because they won it all, I think from what I understand and from what I've read and what I've heard, the general consensus, I mean, amongst the players, the fans, the ownership groups, is 2020 was just kind of a lost season. I mean, they didn't have fans in the stands. They had cardboard cutouts. We talked about that a little bit last week, I believe, whenever I did my opening day thing. But, I mean, they really lost a ton of money last year. Revenues alone from being, from games being attended in person were just horrible because they weren't there. The fans weren't allowed. And you even heard some of the grumblings during opening week when the Rangers held their home opener our governor allowed 100% attendance.
Capacity on everything.
I mean, they didn't sell out. They had like 98%. I think the game did sell out, but I think like only 98% of the people, used their tickets. Yeah, so. But still, I mean.
Still 90%, 98% is really good.
It is, and I was listening to the Red Sox broadcast, and Ian Fleming was talking, and he's one of the play-by-play guys along with Joe Castiglione. I mean, I respect Joe Castiglione a ton. I mean, the guy has called more Red Sox games than anybody in history. And he's just got a certain way that he calls a game. And, I'm obviously a fan. But Ian Fleming had said something. They were talking about that opener. And he was like, it looked cool, it sounded cool. But at some point, you have to ask ourselves, what are we doing here? And I immediately, I'm sitting in the car with my dad. And, when we're listening to the game. And, I got pissed. I was like, we're going to a fucking ball game. That's what we're doing. We're trying to do what we weren't able to do last year because, I deemed it really kind of an overreaction. We're going to shut things down over a virus that has a 98 point something.
99.98%.
Yeah, 99.98% survivability rate. We didn't do a damn thing for H1N1. I mean, oh well, no, don't come at me with your regurgitated talking points. You want to come at me? Come at me with hard evidence. And I'm not talking about these pumped up numbers that the CDC is pumping out as far as people who have died from COVID-19. People who have actually died from the disease or from the virus, I mourn for you. I feel bad for your families. And, I mean, losing a loved one sucks, regardless of what the situation is or what the circumstances surrounding that death was. Losing a loved one, it sucks. I'm not unsympathetic to that. But for the most part, we needed to, we needed to be able to get out of the house. We needed to be able to go and do things. And in a lot of cases, for people like me especially, baseball is it. I mean, even if you're going to have reduced attendance numbers like you have now, a lot of these stadiums are at a fraction of their full capacity, and you start hearing terms of like COVID sellouts and things like that, where they're talking about, okay, they're only going to open up to like a 37% capacity or a 47% capacity, and they're selling those seats. And while the seats are sold, not everybody shows up for the game, kind of a deal, and that's fine. Life happens. People can't make it to the game or whatever. It doesn't matter. But I think that we lose a lot of continuity as it relates to right versus wrong. And is it the right decision to move a game? Okay, well, is it going to impact public safety? Are riots going to break out? Is somebody going to plant a bomb in the stadium or whatever? Those are legitimate concerns. Now, like for example, yesterday, Boston was they were supposed to open up in Minneapolis yesterday, but because that guy, don't get me wrong, I forget his name right now.
He was shot. Riots and everything.
Yeah, because there was a gentleman who was shot during a traffic stop, and the officer made a mistake. Do I think that officer needs to be punished? Yeah, absolutely. But yes, it was a mistake. I'm not trying to minimize somebody's life by fitting him or her into this box, saying, well, you were just the victim of unfortunate circumstances, and that sucks, and let's carry on about our day. But do I think that in the long run, is it necessary for us to postpone games? No. If you want to do something, have a moment of silence. But don't postpone the game, because there was no immediate danger. There was no, yes, there was unrest, but I think that people these days, they don't need a reason to get out in the streets and create a bunch of damn havoc. People are fucking bored.
Yeah, Dwight. It was Dante.
Dante.
Right.
Yeah. Let me see here.
But there's already been about 40 arrests because the governor of Minneapolis is not taking any guff about it, and he's arresting a lot of the rioters and having cops arrest a lot of the rioters. But what other stuff in sports?
Let's see. Auto racing. NASCAR's back. NASCAR, they are letting fans into the stands this year, and say what you want about NASCAR. I enjoy it. I love the storylines. I love the competition. I love the technical side of the sport. It's just not driving fast and turning left. You really have to have a sense of technical prowess about you, from a crew chief standpoint, a car chief standpoint, to be able to set these vehicles up.
Even as going as driving, mm-hmm. and that kind of stuff. I only did it like a couple of times, but you get it's really strange once you learn the car and everything.
Yeah.
You can, it's like even, I do it now with my vehicles, and it freaks people out because I'll be in their vehicle and everything. I'm like, okay, this you might want to check out. And it's just by sound, feel, how the transmission's running. I can actually feel how the gears might skip a little bit.
Yeah, and so especially with NASCAR, for like the Gander World Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, and then the Cup Series, those seats are bolted directly to the floor pans in those cars, and that's where they get a lot of that driving by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
I mean, because literally, I mean, that's how a lot of these drivers know what is going on with their car, because I mean, it just doesn't feel right, whether the car over rotates into a turn and so it's loose, or if it's not entering a turn and they're not able to get the car to rotate, so it's tight. They feel like the front end's plowing whenever they dive into a turn, or they don't have drive off, or they don't have
Or even
entry in.
the grip of the tires.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, looser.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they can communicate with their crew chiefs, and then, I mean, the drivers, they can make small, subtle little adjustments inside the car. But as far as like chassis setups and stuff like that, track bar adjustments, I mean, a lot of that stuff has to be done whenever they come in for the pit stops. And, you don't, I mean, it's not like back in the, 50s and 60s when, pit stops were done by dudes walking around with beer guts and cigars hanging out of their mouths and shit. They got grease stains all over all over their coveralls because they just got in eating a bucket of chicken.
Yeah.
I mean, these are athletes, and a lot of times these are like college football players that didn't go get that didn't get drafted, or I mean, these are world-class athletes that are working on these cars.
Yeah.
I believe it's called the next gen car. Right now, the wheels have 5 lug nuts on them, and they use an air gun that's got like a 10,000 RPM. It's called a Thunder gun, and it's powered with nitrogen because it's got the lower moisture content in it. So they're able to torque those lug nuts off and then torque them back on just by hitting them, boom, 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 and they're able to get 4 tires and make any kind of adjustments and fuel the car up, and a lot of times in 15 seconds or less. And if you start hitting those 15-second pit stops, you're talking about losing positions on the track, because you got teams that are knocking them out in 11 and 12 seconds.
Well, I was watching a AI thing on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and they said that they have a new program and everything. It's an AI system to where guys telling them, it's like, hey, the computer's saying do a pit stop here. It's a new thing they're trying out.
Well, I mean, the use of simulators has been in the sport for a few years now, and I mean, especially with the rise of iRacing.
Yeah.
You'll get a lot of these drivers that spend a lot of time in iRacing simulations, driving the tracks that they're going to go to try to get that feel, because a lot of that feedback, because the way that iRacing works is that a lot of the setup information and the handling characteristics of a car as it relates to that particular track, tire wear and things like that, will directly translate. And drivers, they get in, they spend time hitting those marks, entering those turns, and figuring out where they can throttle in, where they can floor it, what the braking's going to be, how deep into a turn can they get. A lot of that does translate over for these drivers. I mean, you're going to see drivers like William Byron, Alex Bowman, even I think to an extent Kyle Larson. Those 3 guys, they drive for Hendrick Motorsports, and you're going to see a lot of guys from these different teams spend an inordinate amount of time behind a screen running simulations on those tracks, and it's just to get them familiar with the way that the track runs. And
Well, the only thing I'm wondering about is, does it give you that? Does it have a program or something like that where it gets in to where it gives you that motion and the vibration and everything like that?
They've got these really expensive simulator rigs where the seats are set up on actuators.
Okay.
So you'll get that that tilt. If you're running it like Daytona or Talladega, where you got the 32-degree banking in the turns, and when you go into the turn, the whole platform that the seat sits on and the screens, they all go like this. I mean, the whole thing is set up on a gimbal, and it's really kind of cool. I think I priced one of those, and I think it was like 10 or 15 grand to get one of those built and then have it sent out to your house, and that's with setup, or that didn't count setup, I think, but just like shipping, getting it built. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, pedals, gear shifters. I mean, you can do the 2 screens or the 3 screens. I mean, and just all inclusive. It's an actual racing seat that you're sitting in, and it's bolted to this gimbal, and you get into it, and if you hit the wall, the whole damn thing shakes. And
I wonder what the maintenance cost on that thing would be.
oh, I don't even want to know. I mean, it'd be enough just to get one, but it's like, it's like you get some of these organizations, they'll go and buy a building in hopes of opening it and using it for some kind of grand thing. And they've got their eyes set on this price, and then they don't figure upkeep into it, and like operating costs. But the season started off really good. I think we had like 6 different winners in the first 6 weeks of the season. I think yesterday Martin Truex Jr. won. Or Sunday, Martin Truex Jr. won for the second time this season. So he was the first repeat winner of the season.
Yeah, he got 56 points.
Yeah, so...
And you got... how many of these you want to get? Just top 5?
Well, right now, the way that the point system works in the Cup Series is that a win will get you a shot at getting into the playoffs. It for all intents and purposes, locks you into the playoffs. Now, in the instance where if we have more than 16 different winners, the tiebreaker is going to be number of victories, and then where you were at in the points is going to decide who gets into that 16-driver playoff system at the end of the season. Because there's 10 races, 4 rounds. There's the round of 16, the round of 8, and then there's the round of 4, and then so there's three rounds. There's the 16, and then the 8, and then the 4, and then when you get down to the championship 4, I mean that's where the final race happens in Phoenix. And then you have to win basically almost to advance, or you have to place and you have to score enough points in order to advance in the playoffs. And you get a lot of these guys that get eliminated, and they're like big names in the sport that don't get to race for the championship, and it's kind of cool.
Going to give you the top 5 names of.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like you said, Truex Jr., Elliott. Truex
Jr., Chase Elliott.
C. Elliott, D. Harmon, W. Bryan, and K. Larson are the top 5s. And the points is like 56, 49, 52, 42, and 38.
Now you got me wanting to look here. Hold on.
Just type in NASCAR.
Gee, you think?
Just trying to help. Why do you have to be so evil towards me?
God, just type in NASCAR like I don't fucking know. Let me see here.
Sometimes I like to be Captain Obvious, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get all that. Okay. Yeah, I was picking up on that, so. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's see here. Standings. So as we're talking about now, we've got Denny Hamlin, who's running first in the points. Martin Truex Jr. is running second. Joey Logano. I cannot stand Joey Logano.
How is he running third with the 52 points? Or was that just...
Yeah, that was just from that event.
Okay.
Kyle Larson's running fourth, and then Ryan Blaney is in the 5th position. William Byron's number 6. Chase Elliott's running 7th. Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, and Christopher Bell round out the top 10 as far as drivers and points. As far as Denny Hamlin, I mean, he finishes races. When he finishes races, he finishes well enough to where he's leading the points right now. But right now, like I said, once they get to that cutoff race before the 10 race playoff begins, mm-hmm. all of the points from the top 16, they're basically reset, and then the bonus points that you earn for wins and things like that will dictate what your seeding is going into the playoffs, and then depending on what your performance is during those playoff races, during those rounds. It's like the round of 16, they get 3 races. The round of 8 gets 3 races. And then the championship 4 will get, let me see, it's 16, 12, 8, and then the championship 4. So, I mean, the championship race, the championship round, the round of 4, that's a single race. Okay? And those only 4 drivers, only those 4 drivers that qualify in the top 4, the final 4, are eligible to win the championship. Everybody else is just racing to try to finish as best they can in the points as as it worked out.
How many race things are there?
It's a
Jeez.
32 race season.
No, not the season. I mean, how many different ones? Because they got Toyota owners for 400. No, that's the actual things.
Yeah, there's three
I was
manufacturers in
the
NASCAR.
truck series.
There's Toyota, Ford, and then there's Chevy.
And you got truck series.
Yeah, there's three major circuits, three national series. There's the Gander trucks. There's the Xfinity series, which is kind of like, I don't want to say the minor leagues, but they're like the AAA of NASCAR. So I mean they're just the step below the Cup Series. Cup Series is where everybody wants to be because that's where the money is, right? Mm-hmm. It's fun to watch the Xfinity races because these kids are out there and they're racing their hearts out, trying to, win a championship there, but they're also trying to win a ride in the Cup Series. They're wanting to make they're wanting to make their debut in the Cup Series. They want to be on that big stage. They want to race with the best in the sport. They want to race with the Kyle Bushes. They want to race with the with the Chase Elliott's. They want to race with the Truex Juniors. They want to race with those guys on a weekly basis. And so you look at the Xfinity series, and their cars are set up a little different. They've got carbon fiber bodies as opposed to sheet metal bodies like they do in the Cup Series. So it gives them a little bit more of an allowance when they brush up against the wall. It doesn't beat their car to crap. But, I mean, you'll see a lot of tempers and a lot of personalities start to really kind of evolve once they get to that Xfinity series. You'll see fights break out more often in the Xfinity series. It's not to say that they don't exist in the Cup Series, but in the Cup side, you've got more of that, that corporate sponsorship presence, and drivers have really kind of matured to the point where they know how to race clean. But you're still going to get those guys like Joey Logano. I can't stand Joey Logano. Make no bones about that. To me, I don't care who wins, just as long as it's not Joey Logano. I don't even care if Kyle Busch wins. I mean, I'm kind of sort of like a low-key Kyle Busch fan, but for me, when Dale Earnhardt Sr. died, I became a Junior fan. I was kind of a Junior fan before then, but I mean, I really just took all of my allegiances and put it in the Dale Earnhardt Jr. camp. When Junior retired, I liked Jeff Gordon back in the day, not as much as Dale Earnhardt Sr., but still nonetheless. So, I mean, I really kind of became more of a Jimmy Johnson fan. He's one of only three guys in the series, in the history of the series, to ever win 7 championships. Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt Sr., and Jimmy Johnson all have 7 championships apiece. And that's a really hard number to get to. Jimmy Johnson, he rattled off like 5 championships in a row during the, at one point during his career. And, for me, I like going to the races because it's really it's an all-day family event. The way that my family does it is we normally go down here to Texas Motor Speedway. We get there at like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. We'll find a park. We'll find a couple of spots in the parking lot, and we'll set up awnings, tables, chairs. We'll cook breakfast in the morning. I usually start drinking beer probably about 8. I have a beer with my breakfast burrito, and we'll eat lunch just before we go into the track for driver introductions and the command to start the engines, and we'll sit in there and then we'll watch the race. And you can get these scanner headsets. I mean, they're like these.
Yeah.
Well, they're a little bit more heavy duty, obviously, but you can get a radio. It's a scanner, and you can tune in to any team that you want. Listen to their radio communications during the race, and it's the driver talking to the spotter, or vice versa. The spotter talking to the driver relating the information as to what's going on in the car to the crew chief. Crew chief is dictating the pace of the race at that point. He's like, well, we're going to pit this time. Here's what we're going to do. And they're communicating back and forth. So you really get that behind the curtain view of what's going on within the race while you're watching the race. And the wrecks, they're cool to watch and everything like that. And it's just the sights and the smells. Like, smells is, for me at least, and a lot of people, is a big thing when we're talking about sports, because I think my girlfriend, she was talking about For her, it was just like the squeaks of sneakers and the smell of a freshly, varnished, gymnasium floor is just kind of where it was at for her. I mean, because she grew up playing basketball. For me, it's, smell of fresh cut grass and just that ambiance that a ballpark brings. You get the sound of a ball getting killed by a bat. Just the smell of leather, from the gloves, and just the crunch that a pair of spikes makes as you're walking across the like gravel or concrete. It's just the overall ambiance of it, and racing brings that its own version of that too. You're going to get the smell of the rubber from the tires, especially when they're somebody's doing a burnout, or they lock their tires up because they're trying to avoid a wreck, and you get these clouds of smoke just kind of come up, and it's all very mechanical and chaotic, and it's very beautiful at the same time. You get that smell of that exhaust, right? That 118 octane racing fuel that they use, and it has a very distinctive smell, and it just kind of gets into you, and you just really like, yeah, that's what I look for, and just the sounds of it. You get that those 750 horsepower engines, 43 cars in the field, and they all pass at the same time at the drop of a green flag. You hear these drivers going through their gearboxes trying to accelerate, and I've got videos on my phone and on my Facebook where I took my now 11. He's fixing to turn 12 this week. As a matter of fact, he turns 12 tomorrow. But so happy birthday, Colin.
Yeah.
But he, I've taken him to races, and I'm like, all right, here comes the field. They're coming to the green, and so as soon as that green flag drops, you hear that increase in RPM, and it's just not one car doing it. I mean, you've got all the cars in the field. They're lined up double file, and they're all accelerating through their gearboxes. You hear those RPMs pick up, and when they hit that banking going into turn one, you get that blast, that pure, unadulterated blast of sound coming up at you, and you feel it in your chest, right? And when the pack passes and they're at speed, you hear that. You hear that sound like you hear on TV, but what you can't experience by watching a race on TV is like when the whole pack passes you. About a half a second to a second after that pack passes you, you get hit with that wall of wind that was coming off of those cars. And I mean, it's just, you can't replicate that anywhere else with any other sport. And I mean, when I say any other sport, I'm not talking racing specifically as it relates to NASCAR. I mean, you get these people that go to these NHRA events where you got guys that are screaming 300 plus miles an hour down a quarter-mile track, and just the overall thunder that comes from those engines that is burning pure alcohol. And it's the same thing. It's just the intensity's picked up a lot more. But I mean, if I had to list my sports as far as preference were going to be concerned, baseball, racing, and then football is somewhere down here. And I'll play golf. I'll even watch golf. And we're talking about things that have happened this week. What was it? It was
In golf, or
yeah, in golf. Where did my notes go?
we need to have the tabs open up for this stuff. Golf this weekend. There we go. The RBC Heritage.
Yeah, RBC's that's the
Or the PGA Tour.
Yeah, well, that is the PGA Tour.
Is it?
Yeah, that's one of the events. That's the event that's going this weekend. But let me see here. A Japanese man won a Japanese golfer won a major for the very, very, very first time this past weekend at the Masters. and Hideki Matsushima
Hideki
became
Mamatsuda.
Hideki Matsushima wins the Masters and becomes the first men's major champion from Japan. And Tiger Woods even, with Tiger Woods being out, he even tweeted on it. He was like, this is big. I mean, the landscape of golf is going to change forever. And you kind of had to imagine what the atmosphere was like over in Japan, because anytime somebody from Japan does something well over here, the Japanese sports media goes completely berserk. And I mean, it's just their culture. I mean, it's just they get behind their people. I mean, they're also some of the biggest critics, but
Oh yeah.
so I think overall the health of American sports, as it relates to not only regionally but nationally and globally, I think overall, I think that the health of sports is pretty good. If we can learn as a society and as sports organizations are concerned to get out of our own way, to just focus on what we're there to do, which is to play a game. And we focus on that. We work on making our product the best it could possibly be, whether that be to stick to our traditional roots or to innovate things, to speed up the pace of play or something along that line. As long as we're focusing on that and that alone, we're not making forays into political statements, and we're not trying to address social issues and using our platform as a sport to sway the opinion of, it's like, come out and just be like, individual opinions of our players may differ for both sides of the argument, but as an organization such as Major League Baseball, our interest and our allegiance is to you, the fans.
Yeah.
And that should be all that it's about. Keeping the integrity of the game as intact as you possibly can without tarnishing it. Because when this whole steroid era hit for baseball,
Yeah, in the 80s.
baseball, I mean, even in the 90s and the early 2000s.
80s and 90s and 2000s.
But when the steroid era hit, I mean, everybody knew that the guys were juicing. I mean, you look at Mark McGwire for to an extent. Mark McGwire, I mean, he spent a lot of time in the gym and he took the supplements that were allowed at the time. But you're going to get people like Rafael Palmeiro and Jose Canseco, just to name the big ones. Roger Clemens, Alex Rodriguez. I mean, they blatantly took Barry Bonds. Good God, don't get me started on Barry Bonds. Do I think his home run record is legitimate? Personally, no. Why? The dude took steroids to hit those bombs. Do you still need the talent to hit that ball? Yeah, absolutely you do. But do I think that you're going to crank them out with the frequency that he was at doing it and at the distances he was doing it at? Hell no. Because you look at that guy when he came into the scene, when he made his debut with the Pirates. Dude was skinny. Ugly as hell. He's still ugly as hell, but the dude is just massive. He's big. And now when he stopped playing, he retired, and he's either a consultant for, I think, the Marlins now. I could be wrong there, but he's not on a field playing. The dude is tiny because he didn't have the need to either ingest or inject these particular chemicals into his body to enhance his performance. Do I think that the bigger names, the cheaters of the steroid era, do I believe that they should be eligible for the Hall of Fame? I think to an extent, at some point they're gonna get in, because it's gonna get played down enough over the generations, over the years, not generations, but over the years, that it's not going to seem as bad. I mean, we've got guys who have, I mean, they willingly, and you can see, here's my big heartburn with it. they've got guys who have taken steroids, taken these performance-enhancing drugs, these PEDs. They've gotten caught. They've served out their suspensions. They've come back and played, and they've actually made more money coming back off their suspensions because of the name of that they're carrying. And they're still being considered eligible for the Hall of Fame. They've tarnished the game. They cheated at the fucking game. But then you're going to get people like Pete Rose, the all-time hit leader, who is banned from baseball because he bet on the game. I mean,
on his own team.
Well, yeah, he bet on his team. He didn't bet against his team. He bet on his team. And betting is betting. I get all that. But to say that he's ineligible because he bet versus taking steroids. I mean, the dude there are guys putting needles in their arms and in their hips.
Buttocks.
Putting needles in their asses to cheat. Actively cheat at the game. But here he is. He's making side bets that his team's going to win or his team's going to cover a spread or whatever. And they're going to ban him for life for it?
Yeah.
One of the things that I always say that I'm going to do, you get these hypothetical, outlandish fantasy type scenarios where if I was commissioner for a day, I'm not talking about one of these like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not official kind of a deal. It's more of a, hey, you win this contest, you get to be
Make a wish type thing?
Yeah, not make a wish, but it's like, you get these guys that they, notional kind of commissioners for a day. It's like you get to come in and you get to experience what it's like to be a commissioner, but you don't get to sign anything. You don't
Basically
get to,
like Anakin Skywalker being on the council, but not a master.
I see, there's our nerd reference. Very good.
I know, there we go.
There you go. All right, so, one of the things that I would do, the first, very, 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 very first thing that I would do if I got to be commissioner of baseball for a day is I'd reinstate Pete Rose. I would reinstate Pete Rose and be like, all right, look, these guys, they get to be eligible for the Hall of Fame, and they've actively cheated, and in some cases, multiple times. You bet on your team. Your on-field performance as a player, you got over 4,100 hits. That record still stands. I mean, I honestly, I don't think that that's ever going to get broken. I really don't. So, I mean, he earned the name Charlie Hustle for a reason. This dude played hard-nosed, old-time baseball. And he did it in an era where steroids weren't a thing. He wasn't out there beating his wife. He wasn't out there taking drugs. He made bets. Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, they go to Atlantic City all the fucking time. They did it as players. Nobody said a damn word to them. Was it because of the color of their skin? Hell, I don't know. I don't really care. It's the same thing. So, and I know that we're running long here, but...
Well, I was just going to say one thing. The Hidachi Masasuma, he was one of 4 people to do first round over par by the Masters champion since 1970. It was the first one was Jack Nicholson. Second one in 1972, and 1982 Craig Standler, and 2008 Trevor Ideman and Hidachi Masazuma, 2021.
Yeah. So, but I mean the fact that he was Japan's first men's major champion for anything in golf. And to me, that's cool. So I mean, this past week we had a couple of firsts, and they were really cool.
Yeah.
And I think overall for the health of their particular sport and for their region, their country of origin in this particular case, that's huge. I mean, he's going to receive this notoriety of the good variety from his home country, and he's getting a lot of attention that he might not otherwise have seen. Because of it. And so, I mean, even if he'd have come in there on the last day, if he'd come in there on Sunday and played his ass off and maybe finished second by like a stroke or two, I think that, yeah, he'd still get that notoriety. But I think over the long run, as it relates to the annals of history, nobody really remembers who finished second. You know, I mean, and depending on who it is that hears this or watches this podcast, you know, might get some like eye rolls and like, oh, here we fucking go again. But like, really, the only time you really remember who finished second or who lost that game is in instances like when the Patriots came back after being down 28-3 and ended up winning the Super Bowl against the Atlanta Falcons. You know,
well, it's still that one thing.
I mean,
first or your last.
Yeah, I mean, but things like the Falcons loss in the Super Bowl, I mean, that's still a calendar day. That's 3/28. You know, so I mean, you see that on like even on some Atlanta sports radios, like, oh, happy 3/28, you know, and everybody's like, oh, really? Come on, man, that's not fucking cool, you know. But you know, and it's like, okay, you remember who the champions are, and I think ultimately for Hideki Matsuyama, I think that this is going. I mean, this is ultimately going to be great for his career.
And it's also going to be great for the country's career for golf because now they have a little bit of notoriety for it.
Yeah, I mean they've got a champion now. So, I mean, I think he's won a couple of events, a couple of tournaments, but this is a major. This is one of the 4 major events that make up the Grand Slam of golf. And do I think anybody's going to catch Jack Nicklaus or Tiger Woods' major record? No. But I think overall, I think this is good for the game because, I mean, it really, you start to see more and more of these players from around the world start to come in and they start to shine. I mean, you're going to get your guys, your Americans like Bubba Watson and stuff like that. And Tiger Woods, they're going to be the greats. I mean, don't get me wrong, but then they inject that personality into the game. But I think that this brings that international flavor that I think a lot of things like golf has been missing, because for the most part, like Greg Norman, he was Australian, but then you're going to get those Europeans that that have been playing golf. And it's been America versus Europe for the longest time. We've got the President's Cup, we got the Ryder Cup, but I mean we're starting to see like South American players. We're starting to see like Canadians. We're starting to see the Japanese really start to represent themselves more predominantly on the international theater or on the international stage as it relates to golf, and I think that for the health of that sport, it's ultimately going to be very, very good. Is it going to make it as popular as it was whenever Tiger was in his heyday? Absolutely not. If and when Tiger Woods makes his comeback and he returns to golf and he plays for the first time in a tournament since having that accident, is that going to be one of the highest rated broadcasts for golf in the last few years? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to do as much for golf as it did when Tiger won the Masters a couple of years ago, back in 2019 when Tiger Woods won the Masters. But
yeah, it would be one of those things to where it would actually it'll improve the audience a lot. It's like, oh, is he going to have a big comeback? Is he not going to have a big comeback?
Right. Yeah, so just to kind of wrap everything up here. So, I mean, we're going to work on this format, and I know that it's going to get better. Our opinions are going to become more educated, and we're going to have, we're going to be able to include more and more sports, and I'm going to get more of your nerd references. You're going to start learning about sports, and you may even pick a sport that you fucking like, and you might start watching it.
Rugby and soccer. You know how hard it is to talk about people that watch rugby and soccer? Because rugby players and soccer players, they're mean motherfuckers.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I play rugby
some of the most
once.
opinionated people on the planet are fans of soccer or football. Whether it's the Champions League or the UEFA or, the
Don't get me
Conexa.
started on the women's freaking soccer.
Right.
That was the most ridiculous court case, and I'm not even going to.
Yeah, I mean that's a subject for another episode.
Yeah.
But thanks for tuning in to the very first episode of this. It's like I said, it's a work in progress, and it's something that we're going to polish up a little bit. And at some point, we may even open it up to where we're going to start taking calls and do these live.
Yeah.
So and I think ultimately that's going to be really, that's going to be fun. And to be honest, with our serial murder series that we've been doing, okay, we've
last episode wasn't really good because
it wasn't.
Everything was going against us. But this one, the one we're going to do now, God, I know so much about him.
Yes, it's still fun to do, but driving over here today, I was actually nervous about getting into it because I know that sports fans in particular are some of the hardest people,
most brutal.
Yeah, they're the hardest people to satisfy. If they think that your take isn't hard enough, they're going to let you know. If they think that you're too soft, they're going to tell you get the hell out of here. And you can disparage one team versus the other, and you're going to piss somebody off with sports. It doesn't matter if you go in and talk about every team and give a highlight on every team. They're gonna accuse you of being biased. And you know what? Guess what? I am biased. So, but it doesn't say. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to give the Yankees their due. If the Yankees pull off something really cool, I'm going to give them that. I'm going to be like, hey, it hurts my soul to talk about them this way, but I've got to give the Yankees props here. You'll never see me wearing a Yankees jersey, ever, not even on a bet. It's to the point where it's like it hurts my fantasy teams, but when it comes down to it, I will not draft anybody who plays for the Yankees. I don't care how well they perform in the points. I don't give a shit. Pinstripes or interlocking NYs do not cross the threshold of my home. Because in 3 words, fuck New York. But
there's a lot of hate and animosity I feel from this one.
But but again, so yeah, we're just going to wrap this up, and this was our first episode. I think that this is going to be something that's going to ultimately, it's going to be a challenge to do every week, and it's just going to be because we have to stay engaged with it, and
yeah,
but it's something that I'm looking forward to,
and hopefully I have something really to talk about because I'm going to the Totally Archery challenge this week.
Yeah, we can bring up some of those obscure sports. As long as we're not talking about damn curling, even curling to a degree, whatever, fine, I don't care. But and something just to kind of hang our red, white, and blue hat on. There is going to be, for the first time in over 30 years, a United States Marine wrestling for the United States in the Olympics.
Really?
Yeah. He qualified and he won his match in the U.S. Olympic trials, and so he's going to be representing the red, white, and blue in Tokyo.
That should be interesting.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun to watch. But I'm Johnny Skelton.
I'm David Dickerman.
Thanks for tuning into our. What are we going to call this? Nerd sports? So yeah,
we can either do nerd sports or geek sports.
Thanks for tuning into our sports show.
Yeah.
And, hey, if you have any feedback, definitely give it to us in the comments section. We're going to be open-minded about it. And,
I might actually make a Facebook sports page.
Yeah, watch for any links that he's going to post up on our channel. And definitely get engaged because we're not going to get any better unless we get some feedback from you guys. Make sure that... Let's see if I can do this right as it relates to the screen. Hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit that bell and leave any likes and comments down here. And we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. See you later.
Later.